Hey, this is Tim Ashe, President of the Vermont State Senate, here with my daily update on Friday, April 3rd. Many of you know that these last few weeks, as we've been going through the early stages of dealing with the COVID-19 epidemic crisis, I've spent a lot of time talking about people who are on the front lines, really putting themselves at risk and making sure that they are serving the community and really doing heroic things, stepping up way beyond the normal call of their job, their volunteering, whatever it is. And so on the last day, I basically solicited from my constituents. I requested that people let me know uh, who they thought was out in the community doing things that were helping support their neighbors, helping keep people safe, and just exhibiting everything that I think we really love about Vermont in terms of our sense of community spirit and being there for one another. So the number of suggestions came flooding in, and I'll get to, I hope, most of them in the time we have tonight. And any ones I don't get through, we'll find another occasion to do another round because we know this is going to be here for a few, not the short term. I know there's going to be many other people who are very deserving of public acknowledgement, even though that's not why people do this. So this is going to be a little bit rapid fire. I'll do my best to be as clear as possible because some of the people or organizations or businesses that you may hear you might be familiar with, some others you may not, so I might just sprinkle in a little bit of intel. But I have to tell you personally, receiving your suggestions over the last 24 hours has really validated everything I've thought about our state. It makes me feel like people are recognizing their neighbors for the extra service they're putting in at these times. And so I'm very grateful to everyone who sent in a suggestion. And with that, I'm going to take it away. And I'm going to start with Joe, who suggested that we acknowledge the Vermont Arts Council, who very quickly stepped in with what they've called Artist Relief Fund grants. They are going to be sending out almost $60,000 in the coming days. They have received 170 requests. You can imagine that many people who are artists have suddenly had their workshops or classes basically discontinued because of the inability to have in-person meetings. And so we can't forget all the cultural people in our state who really are part of the foundation of what makes this a great place to live. Ricky says he wants to give a shout out to Jan and all of her crew at CVOEO. This is the Community Action Agency for Northwestern Vermont, highlighting a number of the things they do right now, including feeding Chittenden, which is formerly known as, it was the Chittenden Emergency Food Shelf. Now it's called Feeding Chittenden. Also the domestic violence sheltering work they do and so many other things. In Ricky's words, they continue to do more than is reasonably expected. Having worked in community action, I can tell you that none of these people do the work to get rich, and they're being called on right now to do above and beyond even what they've signed up for, and we know across the state it's paying huge dividends. I had a couple suggestions calling out the generator in Burlington. The generator is a makerspace. You may have seen in the news that generator is now, they have kind of improvised and are making face masks to be delivered to UVM Medical Center. Jake Blend is one of the people who's been the leader of that work and want to thank him. And Elliot, John, Alec, Ezra, and many others have been cited as people who have literally been doing round-the-clock work the last few days so that we can get needed masks to the medical professionals who desperately need them. Cindy called out the AgeWell staff. AgeWell used to be called, I believe it was called the Central Vermont Council on Aging. This is an organization that supports lower-income seniors in the community so that they can be healthy and enjoy a quality of life despite not having much in terms of financial resources. And Cindy says, and beyond age well, the councils on aging throughout the state have been extraordinarily busy right now with serving seniors, many of whom are staying home even more than normal because of potential exposure. Had someone asking to highlight the work of Megan Humphrey and the crew at Hands. Hands, all capital, is a nonprofit that works with area older Vermonters and tries to meet their needs, have created something that they liken to support buddies and are matching volunteers with seniors who might be particularly isolated right now. Hands usually will go in and is much more interactive and in person, but understand that those activities have to be replaced right now with slightly more distant, but they know how important it is for people to be connected. Also had someone call out Lauren Glenn Davidian and the folks at Channel 17. They've been doing a Care Mongers video series that Lauren Glenn hosts herself. It has recently had Mark Redmond and others talking about how they're doing work to get through these interesting, most interesting times. Krista referred to the University of Vermont's College of Medicine, the Larner College of Medicine. They've created what they call the LCOM, Larner College of Medicine Cares Service Corp Task Force. This has pulled together students, faculty, and staff to try to determine where there are particular medical service needs out in the community, and then patch together part of this volunteer corps of students and faculty and staff to make sure people are getting the connections to the services they need. So thank you to all the folks up there. Sarah thanks emergency department technicians, including her son, who has that title, and points out that her son is right there alongside doctors and nurses, potentially being exposed to COVID-19, and transferring the infection to family members. So obviously a more than normal amount of stress for people who are emergency department technicians. Those are not the highest paid positions in the emergency department. And Sarah also wanted to highlight the work of all the other techs and LNAs who aren't the job titles that many people are as familiar with. So when we think about frontline healthcare workers, we think about doctors and nurses mostly, but there are all of these other people who are also putting themselves at risk. Jean wants to commend the staff at the Heineberg Senior Center. They created a Buddy Volunteers, and says that Beth and Adele have been particularly showing leadership. They have undertaken to pre-package and distribute groceries to homebound older Vermonters and some Vermonters with disabilities, and has described this as a big undertaking and says that they've just been doing an amazing job. Beth wanted me to recognize the multilingual liaisons in the Burlington School District, and also says the multilingual liaisons in other school districts, but she's familiar with the ones in Burlington. I am probably not going to get all of these names right, and you will understand why in one moment. Alicia, Krishna, Noor, Sun, Lal, Po, Ganga, Nihaza, Hawa, Chacha, and Zaharo are all multilingual liaisons, which means they're reaching out to students and family members who may not speak English as a primary language to make sure they have the assistance that they need to get through this crisis while school is out. Wendy highlighted a few groups, including the library staff, although I don't know which library, the staff at the Howard Center, which is the mental health and drug treatment organization for the northwestern part of the state, the Intervale community farmers. Farmers are actually still considered essential workers under our stay-at-home order, so we're blessed to have them because we all are continuing to need to eat. And also the folks at the Burlington Emergency Vet Clinic. Obviously our pets are extensions of our family, are part of our family, and they're not aware, I think, of what's going on around us with the COVID-19 crisis, and they still have medical needs. So the folks at Burlington Emergency Veterinary Clinic, presumably that would extend to others. Had someone asking for Spectrum Youth and Family Services to be recognized. They are an organization. I happen to be a former board member, and a proud former board member at that, who provides services to homeless and otherwise at-risk youth. They said that partnering with Feeding Chittenden, who I mentioned before, they're providing food not just to the 16 formerly homeless young people living in their facilities, but also delivering to hundreds of others and their families through their mentoring program, and also delivering to kids in the foster care setting who they've had work with. The folks at Spectrum actually wanted to commend August 1st. They have been providing meals to Spectrum 3 days a week during this crisis, so thank you to August 1st. They are a bakery and cafe who are stepping up to support people in need. Rachel says that she'd like to commend Dr. Mark Pitcher. Dr. Pitcher he serves in multiple facilities, but also Burlington Health and Rehab, which of course has been going through very, very difficult times, with really the first place with multiple infected individuals in Vermont, including a number of people who have passed away. And the conditions there, I was on a committee discussion with representatives from Burlington Health and Rehab just a couple hours ago, and unquestionably very difficult, challenging times, and likely there will be other facilities that experience things like this, and Rachel wants to say that she's thinking of Dr. Pilcher. A couple suggestions to highlight the work of Laura Hale. Laura has created the One Good Deed Fund, which provides micro grants to individuals, and these are to further small acts of kindness according to their mission. Her other board members, Stephen and Debbie, they have raised $17,000 in just the last couple weeks and made micro grants to 175 grants. So pretty amazing. One good deed, but they've done 175 of them at least in the last couple weeks. Someone asked that I highlight Jim Holway and all of the people at the Ethan Allen residence. This is it's a home that has older Vermonters. It is not an assisted living facility, but they provide lots of extra caring to the people who live there. This is on North Avenue in Burlington. Jim is the chair of the board. They are a fantastic organization, and apparently have been doing a wonderful job taking precautions to protect the residents there. Dan highlighted the work of Meredith Roberts, who's the executive director of the Vermont chapter of the American Nurses Association, and all the other folks who lead the various nursing organizations. They are apparently, on an ad hoc basis, they've pulled together to create an information sharing pool to make sure that they're getting the support they need and being able to go out and serve more people even more effectively. So thank you, Meredith and the rest of the nursing crew. Barrett had an interesting one. He wants to recognize event organizers. Obviously, event organizers throughout the state of all kinds have had to cancel all the things that have been planned, everything from concerts to weddings to you name it. Barrett says that the crushing disappointment they must face, the income for the people who work for them, the experiences people will not have, says that he's thinking of them, knows that they made these decisions, as difficult as they are, to keep people safe. So that's here to Barrett. Lisa wants to thank the people at Shelburne Bay. Shelburne Bay is an independent and assisted living facility, so people live both independently and in assisted living. Says that the caregivers, nurses, and administrative staff have been doing an absolutely fantastic job there. Again, taking all the precautions above and beyond even the normal call to keep people safe. Had another recommendation to recognize Steve Greenfield, a volunteer at SCORE Vermont. SCORE Vermont is a volunteer group who provide small business and micro business advice to people. They do free confidential mentoring, so people who are trying to work their way through the maze of potential opportunities that are right now in front of them to help get out of the hole that this shutdown of our economy has created. Apparently, he's been tirelessly helping people stay on top of it. He's been doing webinars for people, providing really desperately needed advice, and trying to help people navigate the SBA, which is the Small Business Administration, and all the other federal potential things. So Steve is a retired Vermonter, but he's been volunteering and providing amazing service to people. A suggestion to thank Barb Prine. Barb works at Vermont Legal Aid. She is the one who filed she's a lawyer. She filed the request to what is called the Public Utilities Commission, which manages all of the state's regulated utilities like electric and gas and some phone service, things like that. She's the one that came forward with the request that there be a moratorium on any service disconnections during this state of emergency, meaning your electric service won't get shut off if you suddenly don't have the money to pay the bills. So thanks, Barb, for that. Also want to mention that has now been extended to business customers as well. So no shutdowns. Of all the things people have to worry about right now, that will not be one of them. Jen wants to thank her husband. Her husband, who works up at UVM Medical Center, what he normally does is not operating right now because they've had to change the services that are being offered. So he has volunteered to do, in quotes, whatever, and in quotes, help in any way possible. So he's been screening people as they come into the emergency department, putting himself more at risk, obviously adding to the stress and potential infection both for him and his wife, who is very thankful. Stephanie wanted to commend the work, which I think we know is as critical as ever right now, of Rita Markley and all of the people at COTS, which is the Committee on Temporary Shelter, probably the state's largest organization serving homeless people. There's a facility not far from where I'm sitting right now. The Committee on Temporary Shelter and all of the other organizations serving people who are homeless or in transition have been considered essential services during this stay-at-home order. So people are showing up for work because the people who need their services, their need doesn't stop because of this crisis. So thank you to Rita and all the people at COTS and all of your partner organizations. Patty says that she wants to thank the hospice volunteers at Brattleboro Area Hospice. Obviously, they work with people at the end of their lives or nearing the end of their lives and have had to largely shift their work to be more telephone and video based, and so making an already challenging situation still more challenging. But they continue to offer companionship, emotional support, grocery delivery, picking things up at the pharmacy, taking care of laundry, as much of that remotely as possible, but still trying to provide a close personal connection. And they're also helping with advanced care planning. It is the most challenging time in people's lives, and they need the trusted people who do hospice volunteering to help them navigate some really difficult moments. So thank you to all the folks at Brattleboro Area Hospice and all the visiting nurse associations and everywhere else around the state. Steve wants to thank the hundreds of employees at the state's 5 community action organizations. Before I mentioned CVOEO, which is one of them, the other 4 are SEVCA, which is in southeastern Vermont, BROC, which is in southwestern Vermont, Capstone, which is in central Vermont, and Northeast Kingdom Community Action, which is in the Northeast Kingdom. These community action agencies have all been listed as essential services. They do everything from food packaging and delivery, tax assistance, because many people actually need their refunds. So even though you can wait longer to send a check in. If you want to get your refund, you can do it now. So they still have to do that, but they can't be doing it in person. They're still sheltering homeless individuals, providing all sorts of additional service to people. And so there are hundreds of people. Some of them are able to work remotely, but many of these tasks have to be done in person. And so Steve thanks the hundreds of people who are doing the frontline community action work, and I join him in that. And then last, for today, had a request to thank Adam and his co-workers at Healthy Living, who, as I am told, are getting up and showing up on the job at 4 a.m. every day to make sure that all the food has been cleaned and is safe to be sold to customers. So that was a bit of a mouthful and a bit of a trip around the state, expressing gratitude for all the people who are stepping up in big ways to help us get through this crisis. There are obviously so many, many more. I absolutely welcome you to send additional suggestions, and we'll find a way to do another batch. And I just want to say how grateful I am to so many people who are helping us work through all this. I'll be back tomorrow at 5:30, and at that point I'll probably talk a little bit more about the work ahead in the legislature. We're starting to have to think about how we continue to respond as we come to learn more and more about the federal government programs that are going to become available. It is a dizzying array of federal dollars that are likely to come, each with own requirements, and we want to make sure we use them in a way that both keeps the most safe, saves the most lives, and then helps rebuild our economy and get people back on their feet once this thing is all said and done. So hope you continue to stay safe, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow.